Hello everyone, I'm Abby Wood, a science teacher at Apex Friendship High School, and this is a Pechakucha on how I build a culture of collaboration in my classroom. First of all, you're probably wondering, what is a Pechakucha? So Pechakucha is a word from Japanese that means chit-chat, and the presentations are basically a visual storytelling model where you have 20 images or slides that you explain or talk about for 20 seconds apiece, leaving you with a 6 to 7 minute presentation. As we all know, the first day of school or semester is extremely important in getting students to understand the culture we're trying to have in our classroom. But I think it's important to point out that while students come with many different learning styles and experiences, our teaching style can also help shape their learning styles. That being said, I think it's important to distinguish between rules, norms, and procedures for students, because if they just think everything is a rule, they might be less inclined to quote unquote follow those rules. So my only 3 rules are to try, respect all the things, and own everything that you do. Other than that, behaviors that contribute to learning are considered class norms, and things like going to the bathroom or sharpening your pencil are considered standard operating procedures. I've done a lot of the building of culture in my class through gamification. And so in my class, we have different modes that we might be in at different times of the day. So when we're having our Scrum meeting, we're in Scrum mode. Please note that that acronym is not what Scrum actually stands for. It's just something that I made up myself to help my students remember what to do during a Scrum meeting. During individual work time, we're in coffee shop mode. If we're working with partners or groups, we're in co-op mode. Lab days, we're in lab mode. And then skirmish and battle mode are for assessments of different durations. Ultimately, the most important thing we can all do is get to know our students individually. And so I think it's important for students to also learn more about themselves individually. So at the beginning of the semester, I have them take a survey that involves learning assessment, learning style, and also their MBTI personality type. They then read a little bit about that personality type and particularly focus on their workplace interactions, because essentially, as a student, that is how they would be interacting with their peers, is in terms of a colleague relationship. Once they know who they are as individuals, when a new learning team comes together, they also do a team type assessment to see what is the overall learning or overall MBTI type for the team. And that gives them some insight into who may be left out, who might be overpowering or overbearing in discussions, and also how they can work to convince each other to do things that are meaningful, as well as how they can avoid doing things that will irritate each other. While there's a great deal of focus on collaborative learning in my classroom, it is important to make sure that you're holding students accountable at all levels of their work. So that can be at the individual level, a partner level, a small group like 3-person kind of team level, as well as the overall learning team, which in my class usually consists of 5 to 6 students. In addition to team typing at their first Scrum meeting, they also assign team roles. These can be decided based on their personality types as individuals and which types of jobs they might be have more of a propensity for, but then they also could venture outside of their comfort zone and take on roles that they're not as comfortable with later on in the semester. We here at SummerSTEM tend to focus a lot on Scrum as a means of project and collaborative management. Another important business principle is called Lean, and it's basically a way to eliminate waste from whatever process we are trying to complete. So in terms of learning, I look at waste typically as time being wasted. So taking kind of a lean approach in addition to Scrum can help students identify where they're wasting time, who's wasting that time, and how they can eliminate some of those wastes so that they can work as a more effective and efficient team. Since I tend to function in more of a facilitator role, having the opportunity to choose different assignments and ways to access learning allows students to also learn self-management, and they can learn this within their team during their Scrum meetings. While a lot of this information is typically presented to students at the very beginning of the semester, I use gamification to help create and build an ongoing culture of collaboration. Some of the main mechanisms in gamification that I tend to focus on are points, challenges, and leadership. So in my class, I actually have 3 different leaderboards. They can be on the leaderboard for doing well on an assessment, for the number of experience points they've earned, basically how much work they've done, and they can also be on the leaderboard for gold points that they earned. And gold is earned by basically performing some type of behavior that leads to the betterment of the class as a whole, or at least at the team level. As a chemistry teacher, I know that not everyone wants to learn about stoichiometry. However, I do still try to provide voice and choice in how I present that information to my students so that they do have some ownership of how they access that information. While providing voice and choice can be difficult sometimes when we feel constrained by our standards and curriculum, it is important to make sure that our students have it so that they can maintain some level of interest beyond just being told what to do all the time. Another important aspect of gamification is the ability to try and fail and struggle. So this was actually a comic that began to evolve on my whiteboard in my classroom last semester. And actually that doesn't even show all of the students that were on it at the end, as well as the thriving pail for the few students who were being recognized by their peers for doing a great job. But essentially, again, it's important for students to know that it may feel like a very difficult struggle, but it's okay, and they are learning through that struggle. So encouraging students to learn from failure and learn through their struggle means that we may need to take a look at what exactly a due date, a grade, or a demonstration of learning means to us as a teacher. We might need to make some changes as far as how we do assess those students and how we assess that they actually learn something. Another important aspect of a facilitated classroom is for students to be able to have academic discussions about their content. And that doesn't always come easy for students, especially if they're not used to being allowed to talk in class all the time. So there are ways that you can scaffold discourse within the classroom simply by looking up things related to classroom talk or even scaffolding discourse that can help students learn how to talk to each other in an academic setting. A lot of times we as teachers struggle with we need to teach responsibility. But if students are never successful, they're never going to take pride in their work. So it's really important to make sure that they feel success, because then once they feel that, they will be more likely to take pride in their work and therefore will take responsibility for their work. Having a facilitated classroom also gives room for soapboxes for students. Sometimes they want to dive deeper into a topic that's not directly related to the content, but if you're in a facilitated kind of setting, it lends itself to that much more easily than direct instruction does. We talk so much about feedback and reflection, but I think the most important reason for it is so that the student is informed as to why they are learning something and that the teacher is responding to the learning of their students. Finally, I'd like to leave you this quote by Chekhov, which is a far more eloquent way to say show, don't tell. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any further questions or want to know more, I'm more than happy to help. Please feel free to reach out. Have a great day. Thank you.